Far out in the uncharted backwaters of the unfashionable end of the western spiral arm of the galaxy lies a small, unregarded yellow sun. Orbiting this at a distance of roughly 92 million miles is an utterly insignificant little blue-green planet whose ape-descended life forms are so amazingly primitive that two of them still think doing a podcast called Digital Watches are a pretty neat idea is a pretty neat idea. These podcasters have, or rather had, a problem, which was this. Actually, this is the solution. So, Jeff, what is this?
Well, Brian, this is the 4th issue of IDW's comic book, Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency, A Spoon Too Short.
Ah, yes, I see that.
Has there been anything to do with a spoon as of yet?
Well, yeah, we had the first page and the spork on the plane thing, that was too small for his yogurt.
Oh, that's right. He had a spoon that wouldn't reach the bottom of his yogurt in the first issue.
Yeah. Mm-hmm,
Boy, I hope that wasn't the only reference to a spoon too short.
This is interesting because, of course, this is the first issue I've seen this, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but this issue actually says has the IDW logo at the top and says issue 4.
Right.
And it says it's $3.99.
Yes, it is. $3.99.
That's the first time I've seen a price tag on any of these issues.
I hadn't paid attention to any of that, but I'm just going to do a real quick back to number 1. You are correct. So there must be a couple of different versions of this depending on how it gets purchased. But yep, this one clearly has the $3.99.
Right, and this is kind of interesting too, because apparently there's a review or something across the top of the page. It says, Dirk Gently, A Spoon Too Short shows the legacy of atoms still flowing strong. And it's accredited to Flickering Myth.
Not sure who they are, but I am glad that they recognize this.
Mm-hmm. Or is it just a flickering myth that it's
that could be. That could be.
Yeah.
But this cover is interesting. It has the savannah of Africa at night, and they seem to have a bonfire. And Dirk is sitting, drinking a cup of tea, and his shadow looms large on the side of the cliff that they're at the bottom of. And it must be Tamasha kind of sitting on the ground in front of the fire with the shadow coming toward us. Of course, the cat is there.
And a couple of meerkats.
Yep, a couple of elephants. The warthog is in the bottom.
Oh, yes, you're right. And right down at the bottom. And looks like Dumbo.
Yes.
Little baby Dumbo there. Another nod to Disney, right?
Correct. All right. So we'll breeze through the first couple pages, which will be the previously on page first.
It's funny because it's basically the first 4 panels of this page are from the previous page.
Yes.
And then the bottom 2 are from the last book.
Right. Exactly. It's kind of weird. I thought all of a sudden I had the wrong issue for a second, but then I saw the bottom panels. Just like on the previously on, it shows us the family of tourists from Africa who seem to have lost the means to communicate. Dirk has a new assistant, and she wants him to go to Kenya with her to meet the tribe without words. While there, they meet Madluck, who is fighting against poachers. And then the new panels show that music makes their communication come back. And then they show a close-up of the picture that the elephant drew when it was folded up to make sense, if that makes sense.
Exactly. Well, it makes sense to us because we followed it very closely.
Right.
Okay, so on the persona page, we see all the regular characters they've introduced before.
Yep.
Dirk and Sally, the Kingdom Browns, Tamasha, Madlock, and Sid, the Rhino. And they reintroduce us to Bernice, the cat. And of course, in addition to Susan McDuff, who's on this page, there's 2 other characters that have not been introduced to us.
Yes. So Sid seems to have a friend. But Sid is dead, so I'm going to guess that he doesn't have a friend. They have introduced a second rhinoceros. This one is a endangered white rhino named Annie. And then instead of introducing the chief and the twin boys separately, they've just got the entire Kawansa tribe as a character. So we will move to the first page of the story. In this one, we have another flashback. This time, Dirk is college-aged, and he is in the back of a police car. He is being scolded and thought that his fancy college would have taught him that cheaters never prosper.
And Dirk, who appears to be covered with fire extinguisher fluid or something, because his face is all white and, that kind of stuff. With his handcuffs, he's, propped himself up against the backseat of the cop car. And in small type, he says, "I didn't cheat."
Yeah, so this must be referencing the final exam fiasco where he predicted all of the final questions.
Exactly. In the final panel on this page, we're reintroduced to the title of this issue, Stakeout.
So we'll move to page 2. So now we see Dirk is having his mugshots taken, and then he is being led into jail, and the whole time he is vehemently denying that he is telepathic and is blaming his friends for all of his trouble. And in case you are wondering, Dirk Gently's prison number is 412317899. Doesn't mean anything to me, unless it's the telephone number of some Islington flat.
Absolutely. And this is a very well-drawn page. Again, it's pretty much a full bleed, except for the mugshots across the top.
Right.
And the slamming of the cell door as Dirk looks back in lament.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of a top-down view watching Dirk being walked, almost like dead man walking to his cell. And they got large looming shadows, kind of like they had on the cover.
Yep. Very good. Very good.
So we will go to page 3. Another extremely well-drawn page, and this is Dirk lamenting in his cell, kind of reminiscing over the infraction in question.
Yeah, the events that got him to where he is today.
Yes. So basically, he says that he was a sleep talker, and what could it hurt if they transcribed his sleep talking and sealed it in an envelope, for a small payment. And what was the harm in letting a few people unseal the envelope for a substantially larger fee? And it's just people standing around writing down everything he says while he is sleeping. What could be the harm? Well, he now knows.
Exactly.
And would that be Frankie and Benji?
I was wondering about that. I was just about to say there are 2 small mice at the bottom of the page. Must be Frankie and Benji.
Right. So we'll move to page 4. Dirk is still in his cell. He's laying down on his wood board plank bed, and he's still lamenting. And while he's lamenting, the general from the U.S. military research base walks in and basically tells him it's time for him to take responsibility for himself and to stop running and denying what he can do. Stop denying what you are.
The one thing I have to laugh about in this particular page, I noticed it earlier in this particular issue of the comic book, but while our friend Dirk has claimed he is not telepath or telepathic or psychic,
right?
I think his hair is telekinetic.
Yes.
Because on each of these panels, it gets bigger and goes in a different direction as he gets angrier and angrier.
Right. And in all the previous issues, whenever they have shown the General, we've never seen his face.
Nope.
But they've never been so obvious in their obscuring of his face as in this page.
Exactly.
So we will move on to page 5. So we've now jumped to Africa, where Madluck and Tamasha and Dirk are all sitting around a fire, and there's armed guards who I guess are looking out for poachers and trying to keep them safe. And Dirk is obviously lost in thought, thinking about what we have just seen on the flashback pages. And he decides to ask them, "What did you want to be when you were children?" And Tamasha said she always wanted to work in Africa.
Interesting page. One thing I do like about the page is that they are sitting around a fireplace, and the ashes, well, the little flaming sparks from the fireplace are flying up on the top 4 panels. And it looked kind of a neat effect. I like that.
Yes. Yeah. It's amazing they can draw glowing embers in a comic book.
Yep.
On to page 6. Well, I think the best way to tackle this page is to pretty much read what it is, because it's extremely different when it comes to what we know of as the plot.
Right. And here again, we're sitting in front of the fire with sparks flying up in the air with a nice, beautiful purple background. And our friends are eating. Strange. Anyway, on the first panel, Tamasha says, "My grandfather was from here, and even though I grew up in Oxford and didn't visit till I was much older, I always wanted to come home."
And Dirk says, "Interesting. So was it like an ancestral thing?" And then he offers her food. He says, "Oyster?" Because in Kenya, oysters are very prevalent.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And Tamasha says, "Thank you, I guess so."
And he then asks Madluck what he was like, assuming that he was, in fact, a heavily muscled child.
And Madluck says, "I grew up in the bush. All I wanted to do was get away from here, to London, to civilization. But once I was there, studying about conservation, seeing all the damage that decades of exploitation had caused, all I wanted to do was come home and try and make a difference."
And Dirk says, "Interesting. So it was kind of like a loyalty thing." And then he offers lobster?
Again, common fare for the bush of Kenya, I'm assuming.
Yes.
And Tamasha says, "How about you, Dirk?"
And he says, "Me? I just wanted to be a child." And he pops open a bottle of champagne, grabs a piece of asparagus, puts it between them, and sort of makes them Lady and the Trampet.
Awkward, bizarre image. That's what I would describe it as.
And I'm guessing this is the way they decided to show us that Tamasha is from civilization, pining for the bush, and Madluck is from the bush, pining for civilization. Kind of like Lady and the Tramp.
Oh my gosh. I'm not sure whether we should put this in the podcast or not. But if you switch the two around, it might sound a little, shall I say, erotic.
Yes. Oh, man.
Oh my gosh.
So, more Disney.
Yeah. I can't get it out of my head. I can't remember what the Emperor's New Clothes. Is that the name of the Disney film?
Old one?
No. It's a new one.
They're doing the Emperor's New Clothes?
I think that's what it was called. I can't remember the. Yeah, I think there was, and it was the characters were like a llama.
Oh, New Groove.
Oh yeah, Emperor's New Groove. You got it right. So you know the movie, but have you seen this?
I know of the movie.
Okay, right. So you know of the movie. Well, the Emperor has a friend, and it's that big, doofy guy plays the voiceover. And it looks like him. I know you know the character, the actor. But anyway, there's a scene where he's out in the woods or desert or something like that. And he's pitched a tent to sleep through the night. And they show him waking up in the morning. And there's this little tiny tent that's just propped up over his crotch. I mean, it's so funny and so phallic. It's not like it was an accident.
Right.
When I'm thinking, Disney will slip one in on you once in a while.
So we'll move to page 7.
Good idea.
So no words on this next page.
No.
It's basically just Tamasha sitting on her bed and filling out her journal, looking out her door across the way into the other tent where Madluck is brushing his teeth in his underwear standing in front of an open door like one does.
Mm-hmm.
Not pitching a tent.
His tent is already pitched, my friend.
Yes.
So in the 6th panel on the center of the page, of course, Madluck realizes with his toothbrush stuck in his mouth that he's being stared at from across the way.
Yes.
And in the final panel of the page, you see a picture of the savannah with a moon displayed prominently in the sky and kind of an interesting intersection of the two of them staring at each other,
right,
projected large against the sky. Nice picture.
Yes. And if I'm going to continue with the depravity and leave in the tent pitching that we talked about earlier, I will say this image with the shadows on the tent reminds me of a certain Austin Powers film.
Mm-hmm.
Where somebody would be leaning over in the tent and somebody would be putting something on the table, but from the outside of the tent...
It isn't what it appears to be.
It isn't what it appears. So we will move on to page 8. Oh my
Oops.
God.
Oh my gosh. We have to leave the tent pitching in because there's nothing else we can do.
And he's blaming the oysters.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, so he's got to take a towel, a small towel, and wrap it around his waist. So you see Tamasha zipping her tent closed, and all you see at the bottom of the door flap is her bare legs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
A surprised look on Madluck's face.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have wanted to have been the artist that got commissioned to draw the bulge in Madluck's underwear.
As he frantically grabs for a towel.
Yes.
The guard outside has taken that moment to walk by.
Yes.
And a little bit of side eye. Madluck says, "Damn oysters." And he tells the guard, "Take a rest, Jonathan."
He says, "Sure, sir."
And then Madluck goes, "Yeah, I'm not getting any sleep tonight."
Thank you, sir.
He's going to be up all night.
Yes. Yes, he will. So,
Oh my gosh.
Page 9. So with nothing else to do, Madluck just decides to watch the backlit tent front of Tamasha's tent, where she is slowly slipping out of everything she has on. Appears the little towel isn't enough anymore.
And Madluck is, again, blaming the lobster this time.
Yes. And evidently Dirk is both asleep and wakes up in the middle of his sleep saying it's working. So this is all part of his plan. Whining and dining with Kenyan lobster and oysters.
And asparagus.
And asparagus to start a romance. Page 10. Wow. This has taken a turn. Well, we didn't write this. We didn't draw it. But we will describe it.
No, that's true. Well, let's just say that Madluck and Tamasha have a conversation through the thin wall of the tent. Oh.
Yes.
Leaving little to the imagination in the clothing that they're wearing.
Yes. And some of the gestures that Tamasha is making towards an ever-increasing area of Madluck.
The page.
But I will give them credit for not going somewhere that you, dear listener, I'm going to take you. So, in their conversation, he's outside, she's inside, like you said, thin wall of the tent between them. And he says, "Could I come in?" She says, "In?" He says, "Yes. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be presumptuous, but what I fully expected him to say was, yes, in you."
Okay.
But they didn't go there. So
they didn't.
I give them credit. They have higher standards than I do.
But obviously she's reaching for the zipper of the tent door.
Obviously.
To let him in, as it were.
Or out.
Or in again.
And out.
Stop that!
So release the beast.
Oh my gosh.
Page 11.
Oy, oy, oy.
God almighty, this is just not ending.
No, they're not letting up.
So now that Tamasha got a good firm grasp on the zipper, she has opened the door of the tent.
And just prior to that, in the 4 panels on the top left of the page, it shows her swearing at the oysters.
Yes, and the lobster.
And the lobster, as the headlights have certainly been lit.
Yes. And she also grabs a towel.
Right. And then the bottom of the page, both of the towels conveniently slip down to the ground. And they both go, damn. Oh my gosh.
Please, no more. Page 12.
No, it's a lot more.
Oh, it is a lot more.
Oh my gosh. Are we going to be forced to describe that? I don't think so. Can we skip this page? Oh my gosh.
No, we can't skip this page, but we're not going to dwell on this page.
Let's just say that we've gone from PG to R.
Yes. Yep, that's safe to say.
And on this page, both of them are lamenting the stereotypes of their race and or gender.
Yes.
And dare I say it, the bottom of the last panel, she goes, "Oh, wow." And he says, "What?" And she says, "I just found out why they call you biggin."
Yes. And he also seems to have a thing for armpits.
Ah! Oh my gosh.
Well, we haven't had anything spraying all over the page yet, so let's see what comes on the next page.
Oh my gosh.
Page 13. So on this page, it's kind of interesting. It is a silhouette of a rhinoceros, I will say.
Absolutely.
The silhouette is divided up into little panels, and Dirk is thinking to himself that his plan is working and the trap was set, the game a booty. So somehow he figured out that close relationships started whatever happened to lose the communication. And as the passion in the tent rises and rises, something is happening to this rhinoceros, who I'm going to assume is Annie. And there's sort of a bluish white substance swirling around in the nose, I guess, of Annie. And then it kind of goes out to its whole body and sort of sneezes out, and two firefly things kind of zip off in the distance with music. And Annie is thinking, here we go again.
That describes that very well. I obviously haven't got a clue as to what the swirling substance is, but it does appear to be the source of the music that we saw earlier. So
Right. And I'm also unsure how Dirk understood that getting those two together might make it happen again. Unless it had to do with family units, because it was a whole tribe and it was a whole family. So it must be close, loving relationships.
sounds good to me.
Page 14.
Oh my gosh. We've definitely gone to the pornographic here.
Yes. On this page, all of the foreplay is now over, and Tamasha says, "Screw the cliche, fill me with your big black," and at that moment, she seems to have lost the means to communicate. And the swirling electrical whatever music is throwing things around the room, including them. And literally, Big in there is going to just snap Tamasha by the looks of it.
And of course, at this point, neither of them have the ability to speak.
Correct.
And in the final panel on the bottom of the page, it's a scramble of the bluish white light and a silhouette of the scene inside the tent.
So page 15. So here, Dirk sticks his head out of his tent. He says, "Bang! On schedule." No pun intended. "Now, to me, my orchestra." And
bugles are playing and violins are playing. From behind the trees, a trumpet is calling, and a large gong strapped to hippopotamus is being struck.
Trombones and music notes all over the page. So we will see what happens on page 16. Hey, this is Jeff. When Bryan and I originally recorded this episode, for some reason, without me knowing, one of the pages was left out of the file folder that we were using. So we didn't include it. Rather than trying to fake our way into redoing it and it's never going to sound right, I'm just going to quickly describe this page and then insert it into the middle of what we've already done. So this is a wonderful, beautiful double page spread. we have Dirk conducting the orchestra, who is encircling the tent. They've even somehow figured out a way to get a grand piano, timpanis, tubas, sousaphones, French horn. So we do have an entire orchestra. And music is swirling around the tent, and all of the white glow is coming out of the tent. And you can see that Matlock and Tamasha have no voices at this time. And so now we'll go to page 18. So here we have a beautifully drawn double page spread.
Mm-hmm.
And Tamasha and Matlock are naked through the whole thing, and they sort of have sheet music that is spiraling and swirling across the two pages like a path. And they are following the path, chasing after these beings who have stolen their communication, which has been returned to them since the music started.
Right, and here Dirk is outlining that this was his plan all along, and that, of course, he deciphered this information from what Sally and Susan told him.
Yes.
And he believes that these people, creatures, beings, whatever, are from a separate dimension with 4 dimensions.
Right.
And at least he suspects their dimensions.
Yeah.
And somehow the music is corralling the beings into a bundle.
Right.
At the bottom of the page.
Yes, and in his description of this to Tamasha and Matlock, he used the word bait, and neither of them seemed too happy about being used as bait.
Mm-hmm.
And he said figuring out that last bit about the sex was his contribution.
That's what Dirk says, yep.
So we will move to page 19. So on this page, Dirk screams, "Gotcha!" And apparently he has 2 multidimensional beings enclosed in a circle of violinists. So I guess the music is holding them in that spot.
Mm-hmm. And of course they look like the drawing that we saw from the crumpled paper that Dirk got from the elephant.
Yes.
With large circular eyes and mouths. And then on the right side of the page, we have our 2 accidental lovers.
Yes.
Apologizing to each other for what got into them.
Yes. And saying thank you at the same time.
Oh my gosh. And at the bottom right panel of this final page of this comic,
yes,
we see Dirk say, "Isn't love grand?"
Yes. And they introduce next time, and the last issue of this volume is going to be titled Life on Mars.
Well, that certainly was an interesting place to go.
Yes. That was a bit unexpected.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and as you said, I'm not sure how it is that they have these interdimensional beings trapped by this circle of musicians, but somehow, oh, who knows?
Or how they're going to continue to keep them trapped when they stop playing.
Exactly.
So they really can't stop playing.
Mm-hmm. Well, Jeff, that certainly was an interesting comic.
It certainly was.
Well, as we started with this particular story, of course, the first issue, as I described, was quite salacious. This issue went from salacious to pornographic.
Yes.
Not expecting to go there for sure.
No.
So this one gets the not safe for work label, right?
No, not quite. I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
There were no short spoons. I'll tell you that.
But there was some spooning.
There was some spooning. And cupping.
Yep. And no tea, oddly enough.
No tea. Wasn't there tea in the first page or the...
There was.
Up at the beginning, sitting around the fire.
On the page, you see Dirk drinking a cup of tea. You do indeed.
Right. Oh, it's wine in the first page of this comic book.
Right. Well, on the cover, he is sipping a cup.
All right. Well, obviously, Brian,
Yes.
the next podcast that we do is going to be of the 5th and final issue of this volume, A Spoon Too Short. So now we know that this is happening. Is there anything you feel you should say?
I don't know, Jeff, other than this is the end.
Thank you for listening to this. A new episode is released on the first Thursday of every month. A special thank you goes out to Luke, Max, Greg, and Tim Lesnick for arranging and performing our opening theme. Visit our website at digitalwatchesareaprettyneatidea.buzzsprout.com. While there, you can find links to all of my Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy inspired t-shirt designs. You can contact us via email at digitalwatchespodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on YouTube and Facebook at Digital Watches Are a Pretty Neat Idea. You can message us on Twitter, or should I say X, at Watches Idea. And our Instagram is Watches Idea Podcast.
This has been a Froods for Thought production.